All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Clio Draft Power Hour. How's it going? Oh, I love that. Day 2 and you still have energy? That's great. Well, I just wanted to say thank you all so much for coming today. We have a ton of information to cover, and if so many people were like, you gotta cut this down, but I really feel that getting you as much information as possible is really helpful. We are going to do some hands-on learning activity today, basically building a template together. If you look in the app, you'll see a document that's called some kind of template. You can open that. It's a Word document, and we'll build that together later on. There are also some guided notes on the tables. There weren't a ton, but if you don't have a subscription to Clio Draft, I wanted you to at least be able to take something away so that you could have a jumping off point if you decide you want it later. Let's see, anything else? No, I think that's all. Let's jump right into it. I will go a little bit quickly, so I apologize in advance, but we have a lot of really helpful support. I'm on the customer success team on Clio Draft, and we want you to be successful if you're setting up templates and setting up your integration with Clio Draft. So while I'm giving you a really nice overview today, the important thing is you will have help. You are not alone in this process. We want you to feel supported, and it's our job to support you. So throwing all that out there. All right, I'm going to get started. A special thanks to our innovator exhibiting partners today. And thank you to our visionary exhibiting partners as well. My name is Corey Bates-Rogers. I'm the Senior Customer Success Specialist here on the legal content team. That just means I work for Clio Draft. And, I made this joke last year, so everybody laugh. The longer your job title is, the less important you are. So you can see my email there if you have questions, if you need anything at all after this session, if you want to learn more, feel free to shoot me an email because I'm happy to help in any way that I can. We also have some really helpful folks here that helped me prepare for this session and that are here to answer questions if you have them throughout the session. If you're building a template with us because you already have a Clio Draft template and you have a question or a concern, just raise your hand and wave, and these folks will help you. The first two we have are Georgina Marcus and Nidhi Gornani. Nidhi is the staff product manager at Clio Draft. Georgina is the director of customer sales at Clio Draft. If y'all are here, can you stand up and wave your hands so that people can see you? They are trickling in. We also have Justin White, the director of customer enablement at Clio Draft. That's my direct report, so if I do a terrible job today, he's the one you can complain to or blame. Zaid Turawa, he is an executive assistant at Clio Draft, so they're also here. That's Justin over there. We've also got Tucker. Lots of folks here to help. So if you have questions, just raise your hand and we'll get you someone. If there's time for Q&A at the end, we will definitely do that. What are we covering today? So if you have met me before, if you've come to any of my sessions before, you may know I have a tendency to be a little corny. So I'm going to apologize in advance if you don't like jokes that are just total groaners. But there is a story time at the beginning. I want to talk a little bit about my experience as a practicing attorney when I first started. Then we're going to move into the workflow solutions that you can use at Clio. So I really wanted to talk about how the optimal workflow to maximize the efficiency of your firm. So we're going to hit really quickly, really lightly on Clio Grow, Clio Manage, and then we're going to move deeper into Clio Draft. Then we'll talk about how to create that workflow, what it actually looks like. We'll do some template building, document generating together as well. So if you have your laptops and you want to follow along with that, you're more than welcome to. So let's start by the little story of my law firm experience. And I'm just going to let you know, this was one of my first really big attempts using AI to help me accomplish a task. So what I did basically was I have this long prose paragraph about what my law firm experience was when I first graduated from law school and got a job as an associate attorney at a smaller practice. I was the first associate attorney there. We did criminal defense and some other stuff, mostly criminal defense. We had high volume practice, so we were just constantly busy all the time. Forewarning though, this story is rated TV3L. There are going to be some ghosts here, some manual labor, and some rejected filings. So if it gives you a little PTSD, let me know. Viewer discretion is advised. This is called a nightmare before trial. In addition to, so I took that long paragraph or several paragraphs of my story and I said, hey, ChatGPT, turn this into a Christmas Carol style poem. And so that is what we're going to be seeing today. It did all the work. I made some tweaks to it like you do, but also pay attention to the images in the story because I had AI generate all of the images for the story using specific queries and things. I'm not a tech nerd. I'm a tech nerd, but I'm not super smart with tech. So if I can do it, you can absolutely do it too. So a nightmare before trial. Let's get it going. 'Twas the night before trial, and all through the firm, the inefficiencies lingered, causing great concern. The solo attorney ran from court to court, leaving the office in a disordered sort. When out of the darkness, a ringing arose. The ghost of potential cases appeared, I suppose. This phantom awakened me with a jarring sound to show me the nightmares where solutions weren't found. The intake was slow, a manual chore with potential clients finding help elsewhere before. Calls went unanswered, business was lost, and when they did connect, it came at a cost. The receptionist typed notes, sent emails in haste, but the attorney's delay meant more clients displaced. The paper files grew as I watched with the system a mess, as I watched with a horror I couldn't suppress. Back in my bed with sweat on my brow, wondering, how can I fix this right now? But just as I settled, another ghost came, the ghost of cases present, calling my name. This file's in use, the ghost bellowed with glee as I tried to fix a PDF with Adobe. The paper files passed to the paralegal's care, with court dates and filings handled with flair. Then came the warning, as clear as the light, a trial forgotten, set for the next night. The file awaiting discovery was misplaced. I'd drive hours in panic for a continuance with haste. The workflows were faulty, the case updates old, a system so broken, it left me so cold. PDFs were converted and sent out in strife, while the ghost of cases present laughed at my life. The ghost then departed with laughter so cold, leaving me breathless, my worry untold. And back in my bed, I yearned for the day that a future would hold a much better way. Finally, I thought, I can rest for a while. But a third ghost appeared with a click, click, and smile. The ghost of rejected pleadings, oh, what a fright, came to show me the errors made late in the night. Click, click, it said, as I watched with despair. A hasty drafting is made without proper care. The motion was wrong, the case law outdated, the template was old, improperly created. Find and replace was used. Anyone guilty of that? Leaving traces of with a risky hand, leaving traces of clients we hadn't yet planned. The motion rejected, the format askew, and I cried out, there's no time to review. But then I awoke in an office so clear, realizing Clio's software was finally here. With a sigh of relief, I smiled and knew that I'd soon bid these problems a happy adieu. The end. Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. So it's really cool the things you can do with AI. You may have seen some really interesting things in those images, and there's just one I want to call out. If you saw the one with the ghost of rejected pleadings that came, you may have noticed that there was a framed image of a pleading that had a big old rejected stamp on it. So if you want to know more about law office interior design and how to reduce your client workload, just let me know, email me, and I can help you out. So I want to talk a little bit about the morals of this story. We had a lot of problems when we first started. It was a really new firm. There were tons of inefficiencies, and we're going to talk about all those inefficiencies. I've sort of broken this down into three main sections, and the first one is the issues that we had with intakes. You probably experienced this. I do apologize. We're going to move through this really quickly. So we had lots of issues with intakes, but the most important thing was we had such a problem returning calls quickly enough. And if you are a high-volume lawyer, you know that if you don't return that call right away, they've already called the next firm on the Google search list, and you lost that business. And we dealt with that all the time. We had phone intakes that were so time-consuming. The receptionist is just talking on the phone, getting all this detailed information, typing it out in an email to send to the attorney. While that's happening, more people are calling, and we're missing more calls. The process also was super dependent on the attorney, so we would send the attorney, or the receptionist would send the attorney the information from the intake, and then the attorney would review it, but was also driving to court across the state, in court most of the time. So respond to it, this is what we quote, we do take this case, that sort of stuff. Then the receptionist sends that information out, and then there's just a lot of redundant file creation that happens. We're creating this email, we're creating a paper intake, we're creating a paper file. There's no consistent place where all of this stuff is stored, so it's not really conveniently accessible. So moral number one of the story is client intake should be simple, it should be easy, and it should be without bottlenecks, because bottlenecks are the thing that's really slowing you down. But we have some solutions. So the first solution for failing to return calls quickly is you can use tools, and if you're not already using something like this, it's a really great idea. Use a tool like Lex Reception or Call Ruby or something like that. You can actually contact these companies, will answer the phone for you, just like it's your law firm. You tell them exactly what you want them to say, what information you want them to collect. So the potential client thinks, I'm talking to the firm right away. You get the information immediately. It's up to you and your receptionist to return that call, to do that additional legwork after that. But they're talking to someone immediately, and that was a huge game changer for our firm when we started doing that. Then we've got Clio Grow's built-in intake feature. So instead of spending all this time talking on the phone, you can send out that intake, collect the basic information you need, and move on to the next step pretty efficiently. Also, processes that are dependent on the attorney. One of this was, the attorney had to quote the case every single time. This is how much it's going to cost. The easiest solution here was create a price list so that the receptionist can say, hey, we're going to take this case. It meets our criteria. This is how much it's going to cost. It wasn't perfect at first. A lot of training needed to happen to make this successful, but it was successful. And even though maybe there was a $500 difference here and there in the case type, the attorney might have charged a little more, the receptionist didn't see or whatever, you're still getting that money in the door, and that is the critical part. And then setting up your Clio managed properly, it's just going to reduce those redundancies, especially when you join that with Clio Grow and Clio Draft. So always beware of the ghost of potential cases, everyone. Then we're talking about case management problems. We're going to jump through this as well. Some problems that we had, the first thing is that the detailed fact gathering was time consuming. We had a consultation with the potential client, and the attorney hand wrote the notes on an intake form that no one could read. It was perfectly encrypted because he should have been a doctor. And so there were times where I would be in a hearing, maybe like a not guilty plea or something, that was criminal offense. So I'm there, I'm looking at these notes, and I'm just like, oh my God, I don't know what any of this says. So I'm collecting that information again while I'm there talking to the client, getting ready for our plea. Case notes recorded, oh man, y'all. They were recorded in a Word document, saved in a folder, a subfolder with that client's name. And you know what you can't do with that? You can't just universally search for things. You have to find the document, and it was really bad. Then there's the problem of no follow-up with discovery. So our paralegal sends out all of our motions for discovery, and then the file goes into a pile awaiting discovery. And it's not checked up on again because there's so much other things to do. So what we found is that we were realizing we had a trial date coming up. We opened the file, getting ready for trial, and we realized, where's the discovery? So by then, it's too late to file a motion for continuance. We had to go in person, so we're driving across the state just to ask the court for a continuance. How much time wasted doing that, all because we didn't have follow-up tasks reminding us of things we needed to do. And then inconsistent calendaring was a terrible issue for us. Everything was on the attorney's calendar, and it was all just a mess. So some moral 2 is that cases should be easy to track and update so that you don't miss deadlines. Some solutions that I have for you today: detailed, logic-based questionnaires with Clio Draft are a great way, and this is not fully released yet. It's in the pilot stage. You probably heard about it a lot. We'll talk about it a little later, but it's a really great way to collect that additional detailed information that you need. You do your basic intake and grow, you send your complex, all the things you need to file your court documents with Clio Draft is the idea here. Then you can record case notes and updates directly in Clio Manage. If you're not paying attention to that Matter feed that's on the side of your Matter dashboard, it's such a critical tool, plus case notes, plus time entries, plus things like that. All of these things really help you search universally across your matters and to stay up to date. Everyone sees them. Everyone knows what's going on. It's not in some random Word document somewhere. And then using things, and this is my favorite, like Matter templates and task lists and Matter stages in Clio Manage. If you haven't set these things up, oh my gosh, they're so incredible. Learn about them. Try to set them up. Game changers. We didn't have a lot of this stuff back when I was practicing. It doesn't look like I'm that old, but I promise you, I am. And then cool tools like calendar rules. If you haven't checked out calendar rules, we have basically all of the rules of procedure for, so many rules of procedure, thousands of rules of procedure, and you can add those to your matters based on jurisdiction so that you get updates and calendared updates for things you need to do in deadlines. Beware of the ghosts of case press. And then finally, and this is where we're going to spend most of our time, are difficulties with documents. So we have things like templates are not universally updated. Listen, when I first started, we had templates on a server folder, and when you update those templates on the server, it doesn't matter because everyone has dragged a copy of them onto their desktop, so they're easily accessible. And so you're spending all this time updating the case law and the whatever else you need to update, the formatting, so it looks great. And they're still using the version from 10 years ago. Using documents that force you to do find and replace. Oh, if I had $1 for every time that I found a pleading that had somebody else's name on it, I would have a lot of dollars. I probably wouldn't work here. No, just kidding. So preventing your staff from first of all, it's time consuming and annoying. Nobody wants to do that kind of mundane work every day, all the time. It's just so much. How can we speed this process up for people? Just give people a better quality of life. Let them engage with the customer, your client. Let them engage with the actual thoughtful practice that's happening at your law firm instead of spending hours and hours and hours every day finding and replacing and obviously missing things. You can't catch everything. If you're finding and replacing a name and it's spelled weird in one place, you're not going to update that one because if you're just doing find and replace, it's going to be missed. So missing and improper information in documents, huge issue. And then this is probably me just going super anal, but the formatting of the document, I spend a lot of time on formatting. I love a nice, beautiful, crisp document. And I know that court clerks love a nice, beautiful, crisp document. And they talk about it. They say, hey, your pleadings are always so pretty. They're terrible, but they're pretty. No, I'm just kidding. So, that formatting just gets lost over time. The more you find and replace, the more you change things, the more everybody's using that same document. It just creates all these issues. So moral of the story 3, documents should be easy to build, consistent across the firm, which is a really important thing, and easy to find. Your law firm is your brand. And and that consistency is your brand. Letters that you send out that look the same for everyone, that is a brand that you are building. And if everyone has a totally different form that they're using, you're not building a brand. You're building this attorney's brand and this attorney's brand and this attorney's brand, but you are all in the same firm and you have the same goal. And the more firm recognition you have, because these things are similar, the better it is in the long run. All right, so let's talk about some solutions. Obviously, templates live in one location in your template library when you're using Clio Draft, and if you want to generate them, you go to the template library, and it's not on your computer, it's not anywhere else. If you're trying to generate a document, all in the same place. So when you update that template file, everyone gets the update every single time. Game changer. Using fields from Clio Manage and inserting them into Clio Draft. That's how your data flows from one software to the other so that you're not doing any of that duplicate entry. Fields and conditions, You can use those to prevent missing information or to make sure that everywhere in this template the name is changed properly, or this paragraph is inserted because you used a condition to insert that paragraph. And then the formatting, consistent every time, and it's beautiful, and I love it. Clio Draft helps with all of those things. Beware of the ghost of rejected pleadings. You'll also notice that the ghosts change dramatically every time. You can't get a consistent generation every time. Okay, so let's talk about how to create this workflow. You begin with a document. We today, if you have downloaded it and you're ready to go, we're going to use this notice of appearance. You'll see it's pre-highlighted. It looks just like this. We're going to build this together today. If you want quick access to it, you can scan this QR code and it'll show up on your phone. You can email it to yourself or however you want to do it. I know like QR codes on your phone aren't really great if you're typing something out on your computer, but it's the best I got other than the app. So I'll give you a second to do that if you like. 5, 4, 3, 2, oh, that's 5 seconds, okay. All right, so let's talk a little bit. We're going to really power through this because I'm looking at this clock and I'm getting nervous. Tips for document formatting. And this is just like helpful stuff, things that I really love to do, things that I think will help you make sure that your documents look perfect every time. The idea of Clio Draft. And they're honestly the biggest reason I love Clio Draft. And I'm not saying it just because I work here. I'm saying it because if I were still practicing, I would have Clio Draft. Hands down, I don't care how much it cost me, I would have Clio Draft because it's just that big of a game changer. But these are some helpful tips to just help you set up your Word documents quickly and efficiently and great. You may already know these, so you may roll your eyes at some of these. They're pretty basic, but they're really powerful tools. The first thing is enabling the ruler on the View tab in your Word document. Lots and lots of people that I work with every day will pull up a template and they're like, why is the formatting off? And I'm looking at the template that they have, and they don't even have the ruler enabled, so you can't really see how to line things up really easily. Enable that ruler on your document in Word. You only have to do it once, and it'll show up every time. Super, super helpful tool, and you need it to do the thing that's after this one. The second thing is, you can see here, we're going to the paragraph subsection on our home ribbon. We're clicking, my voice is going out, so we're clicking the paragraph section there and the little paragraph button that you see right there. And that turns on these non-printing characters. So I gave you some examples here. Spaces just show up as little dots in the middle of the sentence. These are non-printing, so they're just like in the document, but it at least tells you, oh, there's a space here. Oh, there's a tab character here. Tab characters are represented by little arrows. Every time you hit the tab button, you see one of those arrows. Let's try that again. Line returns, oh my gosh. Line returns are paragraph symbols in the document. Let's do that again. Boom. Enable. Boom. You can see those little paragraph symbols. It's just because I hit the enter button several times. So that kind of helps you determine where things are. And this is my favorite part, using tab stops. So critical. Now that your ruler's enabled, you can hit the tab button, click the ruler somewhere, and it'll create a tab stop. So what happens is it stretches that tab character out to where you put the tab stop in your document. And the cool thing is, look, if I type Timothy instead of Tim, the tab character just shrinks because the stop is so far away. That's how you make sure that when a name is super long, it doesn't push things over onto the next line if you have them set up in a similar way. Tab stops, do it. The last thing is using automated lists, and this is probably the thing that most people do, but it's really helpful when you're building templates, especially with Clio Draft and you're using conditional logic. So say you insert a condition around paragraph 3, that condition isn't met when you generate your document, then paragraph 4 becomes paragraph 3 and your numbering sequence is maintained, so you're not constantly going in and renumbering all of these paragraphs. There's a little bit of template prep, and this I am going to run through because I don't have time. Check the formatting and spacing before you start the templating process. That's really helpful with show non-printing characters. I like to highlight fields in yellow. Just my reminder when I'm about to start the template, I need to highlight these fields to remind myself, hey, a field goes here. Also, if you don't have a lot of fields in Clio Manage, this is a great way to start where you're going to end this process. Start at the document that you need to produce. See all the fields that are in that document, all the client information and core information that you have in that document. Those are the fields you need. That's the easiest way to come up with your fields list. You don't need all these other things that don't go into your documents. So start there. I also highlight things that I know need to be matter custom fields in Clio Manage in a different color so that I can create the matter custom field in Clio Manage. If you already have a ton of matter custom fields, you probably don't need to do that. But if you don't have them, they're really helpful. And then conditional logic, things that need to appear in your document sometimes, but not all the time. That can be as something as small as a semicolon or a space. It can be something as large as a whole section of your document or your trust. Highlight that in a different color. Just remind yourself, hey, don't forget to add a condition here. This is how we turn a will template, for example, because most people have a single will and a married will. And which one do I need to generate? Well, with Clio Draft, it's just one will. And if there's a spouse's name, you know that you need your married will, it automatically will plug in all that married language. If you're doing a petition for divorce, you have your petition with children, you have your petition without children. You know that if you put a name in one of those child name fields that you need your petition with children, so you can turn these two different templates into one, which makes training new staff so easy because then they don't have to do that thought. You just say, draft that petition and let me see it. They say, oh, there's just a petition for divorce here. They draft it, and using the automations that you put in that template, you're basically saving them from that struggle. All right. The second thing is create those Clio Manage custom fields. If you need new fields in Clio Manage because there are things that you want in there, create them. I'm going to talk to you really, really fast about things that I don't recommend and things that I do recommend. So the first thing is, if it's a document-specific field, date of signing, server information, things that you just need to generate that document, but you don't really need to see every time you open the matter in Clio Manage, don't create a field in Clio Manage for it. You can do that in Clio Draft. So some examples are the date of this proof of service. I just needed to generate my proof of service. I don't need to change the date every time in Clio Manage whenever I'm creating a new document. The document title, the things that I'm serving, that's every time I draft this document, it changes. So that's not something I would put in Clio Manage. And then also the service method, that changes all the time too. So you don't really need that in Clio Manage either. Put it in Draft. It will remember it moving forward, but if you need to change it and update, it's super easy to do. The second thing is, I recommend that matter custom fields should be reserved for whole matter information. This is just a recommendation, so I'm not calling anybody out. But think of your matter custom fields as things that relate to multiple people. Date of marriage, that's 2 people. 2 people need that date. Date of separation, place of marriage. All of these are multiple client fields. This is information that multiple people use. Create a matter custom field for that. Other things that are great for matter custom fields are, if you need to attach a contact using a contact select field, you can do that. But things that I find that just clutter up this matter dashboard are when you have a field that says defendant first name, defendant last name, defendant date of birth, defendant. Put all the information on the defendant's contact and attach the contact to your matter. I'll show you how to do that in a second. Then you create those custom fields. Here's a little for your contacts. These are contact custom fields. So you can see these are all things that are specific to the individual. What is this party designation? She's the petitioner here. Her county, whether she had military service, whether she lived in the state for 6 months. This is all specific to just this person. Contact custom field because it goes to the contact. It doesn't relate to everybody. So that's kind of how I think about when creating fields. And then my favorite thing is using related contacts. You can see it over there on the right. If you don't use related contacts, think about it. It's a really cool feature. You can attach a contact to your matter and label it. What is that person's role in this matter? I've got Pulaski County Circuit Court there. I'm from Arkansas. So you can see that it's Pulaski County Circuit Court is related to this contact as court. If I'm going to court one day and I'm like, how many cases do I have in here and do I need to talk to the prosecutor about them? I can open up Pulaski County Circuit Court from any matter, go to the contact review page, and I'll see all of those associated matters so I can quickly see, oh, I've got this many cases coming up. These are still open. Let me grab that file really quick on my way out. Super helpful. Love related contacts, and they work really great with Clio Draft. Then we're going to sync Clio Draft and Clio Manage. this is just a couple of really helpful things that I think I'm a visual learner, so it really helps me to see how these things work together. So data flows one way. So it flows from Clio Manage to Clio Draft. Once you generate documents, you can save them back into Clio Manage, but the data flows from Manage into Draft. So this is how you sync. You go to the settings, you go to integrations, click the sync button, it will ask you to do some permissions and things, and then that'll sync all that data over. How does this look? So on the left side, you see we've got a Clio Manage dashboard, and on the right side, you see the populate page in Clio Draft. So you can see case number goes into that Clio Matter field right there, right from the document. It knows exactly where to go. These things are named the same. Harris County Family Court right there goes onto the court card with all of the information. So you can't see them in Harris County here from this little preview, but on that contact card, I've got court number, I've got county right there too. Super helpful. And then you can also do a single matter sync with Clio Draft. So say you didn't do a full sync and you have a brand new matter in Clio Manage. You want to sync it in. There we go. Click the Documents tab in any matter. Click New. That drop down over there. You can see Create Document in Clio Draft. It syncs the matter into Clio Draft. And then you're ready to choose whatever set you want to generate and move on to the next step. So really quick, really easy ways to resync, manage, and draft to get that new information in there. All right, and then you can save the documents that you generate. And I mentioned this before. You generate a document in Clio Draft. All this looks good. The populate page is completely filled out. Hit Generate Documents at the bottom. It's going to generate those documents. It's going to take a second to generate those documents. My computer was running really slow this day. Sorry about that. And then you'll see at the bottom, there's going to be a Save to Clio Manage button. When you hit Save to Clio Manage, it saves the documents right back onto the Matter dashboard in the Documents tab so that you can access them from Clio Manage, and you can edit them from Clio, not in Clio Manage, but you can click the Edit button, Edit Set in Clio Draft, and it takes you right back to the populate page to make any changes you need. All of these things work they're just so together. All right. Share documents. Once you've saved this back to Clio Manage, if you're one of those folks that uses the client portal or directly shares their documents with client, go to the Documents tab, open up that Clio Draft subfolder. There's the whole set there. There's probably a couple documents in there, and you can share to the client right from there. So if you need to share these documents with your client, boom, they're there and accessible and available for you to do that. Then you build your templates with fields and conditions so that you can automate all of this really helpful information. I did that really quickly. I'm sorry. I know you were. Let me open up my computer. Are you ready? This is what we're going to do. Okay. Last year I did a demo, but my internet was terrible. I got a LAN cable this time, so we are ready to go. So this is that Notice of Appearance of Counsel. It's got all these fields highlighted, things that I'm thinking about. I've got the Clio Draft template builder. We are going quickly through this, so I apologize. If you have questions, just reach out, and I will do this slower for you. But, you know, we're in a presentation here, so. All right, so I'm going to open up the template builder in Clio Draft. Sorry, it's still called Law, y'all. We're working on that name change everywhere, but we're going to give this template a name. I'm going to call this Notice of Appearance. I'm just going to call this 2 because I may have I'm going to call this 23 because I may have other versions in my account. It's going to sync with Clio Draft so that you can start inserting these fields into the document. If you are already building a set of templates and you invest all of this time in building this first template, you can use this import fields from existing template for your subsequent ones. You're not recreating all these fields and recreating all these cards and things. That'll make sense in a second. But I'm going to hit start from scratch because you're going to have to start from scratch eventually. And then you can see I've got this Clio Matter card. This has all of my Matter custom fields from Clio Manage in it, available, ready to go because they've already done this sync. I'm just going to do one example of this, and we may not do this whole template together. So to insert a field into your document from the builder, click and drag your cursor to select the text you want to replace. So the cool thing, and I may have mentioned this before, you don't have to remove all of the client information from your document before you start the templating process. As you build this template, it's going to sanitize the document for you, which is going to make the process go so much easier because if you're like me, I had this like Smith case and it was the best case, and I did just the best work on these motions, and I was like, these are the ones that I'm going to turn into templates. Well, I can do that really easily with Clio Draft because I don't have to remove that information. I can just replace it with my field. So click and drag to highlight the text, find the field you want. In this case, I want this case number field. Hit the little plus button there, that's the insert button, and boom, it replaces your text with your field. That's how you get a field into the document. There are lots of other ways to do it too. So let's see, Monica Smith here. I'm just gonna copy Monica's name. Monica's my client in this case, but also the defendant in this case. So I'm gonna create a card. We organize fields by cards so that you can keep like things together. It really helps the organization process. So I'm gonna hit new card. Roll cards are for people, so I'm gonna choose a roll card and I'll call this defendant. Now I have this new card here. So you can see I have just the two, Clio Matter and defendant. Oh, I'm making great time. I don't know why I was worried. Okay, and then now I'm gonna find, okay, well I need the defendant's full name to be inserted throughout this document. So I'm gonna click the little 3-dot options button, choose bulk insert there. I'm gonna say, hey, Clio Draft, find and replace this text. There are 2 instances, let's just replace them all. You'll see it kind of go through the document, boom, boom, it's removing Monica's name and inserting that field in its place, done, and now I can start clicking around in my document again. We can do the same thing for Jared, but I think Jared's only in there once, and that's the plaintiff, so let me create a card for plaintiff. Just like that. Same fields there, just for plaintiff. Click and drag. Plaintiff full name, boom, insert right there. So you can see you're just inserting fields throughout the document. I've got attorney full name as well. So I'm going to have a new card for attorney. I'm going to choose a roll card as well. I'm not going to call it just attorney. I'm going to call it responsible attorney. Does anyone know why I would do that? Why would I call it responsible attorney? The technological reason? Somebody, listen, I've had meetings with some of you. You should know this. We talked about this. Well, I think I heard it. Yep, it's because in Clio Manage, when you look at a matter, the responsible attorney that you attach here, so you can call it responsible attorney so the information knows where to go. Give yourselves a round of applause. Great job. Sometimes I think, yeah, I'm just talking. Is somebody listening? And now I know they are. All right, so we'll do the same thing, a bulk. Oh my gosh, I feel like I'm 12. We'll do the same. We will do the same thing for attorney full name. All right, attorney full, responsible attorney there, bulk insert, just pasting that text and saying, hey, Clio Draft, find and replace. I'm not going to do all of these fields. There are 5 instances here. It's going to go boom, boom, boom all throughout my document. You can see there are some things here that I'm not adding. Why would you add an attorney address field unless you have different offices? It's the same address in most situations. You don't need a field for that. Just leave the text in your document exactly as it is. Same thing if you're using the same phone number for everybody, the same fax number for everybody. You don't need to turn that into a field in your own document if you never change that information. Email address is one that I would change, and you'll see I'm going to enable non-printed characters. I just broke a rule, guys. So you can see email address here, but look at how this is kind of set up. So I've got here email address. It's just text typed, and it's underlined, but I'm using a tab character. So I'm able to type, and look at that beautiful line. It's not like underscore, 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 underscore. Do you want me to show you how to do that? I heard a yes. I didn't make it up. All right, I'll show you. So say you have email. Ooh. I'm just going to remove underlining there. We'll call this email. I've got my space. Enable underlining. Add another space. Add a tab character, and now I'm going to insert, I'm just going to remove that tab stop there. I've already got this tab stop right there. You can see that little arrow in my document. You can move it wherever you want. But when I type now, boom, just like that. All right, well, this is just a little demo for you. All right, so back to email address. Let's focus. Email, insert, responsible attorney email. bar number, all of those other things. I would add bar number as a contact custom field and attach it to my attorney cards, because then you can pull that information in. You don't have to retype it. Bar number's right there. Gonna skip that one. I've got my certificate of service information down here. So, certificate of service information. Let me ask this question. Would you create a matter custom field for certificate of service information fields? Why?
Specific to that one.
Oh my gosh. Give her a round of applause. So how do you get that information in here? Well, you hit new card, and this time I'm choosing I'm choosing another card, and I'm going to insert information that doesn't really belong on a contact. It's just other information, document-specific information. I'm going to call this certificate of service information. Add card. Woo. Doing great. So now I have this card that has nothing on it. Well, let's add some fields to it. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to add our service date field. Once you create a field once and you see it in this dropdown, if you select it, it's going to remember how you created it. So you don't have to recreate the field every time. Watch. It knows it's a date field type. It knows that's the format I like for this field. Add field to card. Now I have a service date field directly on this card, so I'm going to click and drag. I'm going to go boom. It's going to insert that service date. If I've onboarded you before, if you've watched our onboarding videos, I'm sorry if this is redundant information. Just a really good example I like. All right, add another field. I need this delivery method. How did I serve this document? So I'm going to add field to card, call it service method. I'm going to choose a single select field because we're choosing one from a list of options here. I'll make it a drop down just because it's pretty. I'm going to ignore formatted, that doesn't matter, and add my first option. Notice you see an option label and a text to merge field. So what I really like about Clio Draft, some people don't love this, but what I love about it is I like that really granular control over what my documents look like. I like to be really nitpicky with things. And you can do that with Clio Draft. There's so much granular control you can have. So the option label, for example, for this one, I might say, okay, well, e-file is one. But I don't want my document to say, and a copy was delivered via e-file to the following individual. I like a little more formal artistic language there. So I'm going to say this court's electronic filing system. So when my drafter chooses e-file from the list, the text that actually gets merged into the document is this court's electronic filing system. Let's do email. I don't want it to say email, so we're going to do electronic mail. Really enables that legalese. Electronic. All right. Let's do certified mail. Hand delivery. And then just to show my age a little bit, we had a new person start at the firm when I was there. And we had a field. We labeled it facsimile. And she was like, I have no idea what that is. And I was like, have you heard of fax before? And she's like, yeah, I've heard of that. I don't know what it does, but I've heard of that. And I was like, okay, well, now I'm old, so. F-A-C-S-I. All right, cool. There we go. You can add a hint to any field you create in Clio Draft. So something, a little helpful tip. This is really great if you're doing something really complex like a trust or, where you want to tell your drafter, hey, if you choose this option, this is what happens. If you choose that option, that is what happens. Use the hint feature. It's really cool. It allows you to just really help your drafters through this process. And you may be thinking, okay, this is a little time consuming. It takes time to do all of this. It really does take time, but we're looking for that compounding time-saving value here. Every time your drafter generates this document, if it only takes 2 clicks, it's worth putting in the time to set up the template in that really granular way that I like. All right, but I'm not going to add anything because this is pretty self-explanatory. And there's my service method field, so I'm going to go click and drag to highlight, insert, Shazam. Is anyone building this with me? I just want to know. It's okay. Oh my gosh, look at you. You work here. All right, boom, certificate of service. Okay, so I'm not going to add opposing counsel information, but you kind of get the hint. Roll card, opposing counsel, add all the fields. But you can see I've got this cyan highlighting here. Why do I have it here? Because I am really specific, and when I send my certificate of service information, when I add my certificate of service, I only want to include the contact method that I actually use to serve this individual. It's a loose example, so give me a little leeway here. But I want the address to show up if I serve via certified mail or hand delivery. I want their email if I serve via email, and I want the facsimile if I serve via fax. How do I automate this? How do I make sure that the right thing shows up at the right time? That is called conditional logic. Conditions are the coolest tool that I just love conditions. You can do so much with them. You can use a condition to insert a space in your template, a comma in your template, a whole section of your template. They're really cool, really versatile, lots of ways you can use conditions. So I'm gonna hit this create condition button. And the first question I'm asked is, hey, is this condition triggered by one of the fields that you've inserted into your template? If you say yes, you're saying there is a field that I can use to trigger this text. Why that's important is because it saves your drafter time. If they're already interacting with that field, then you don't need to give them anything else to do, and you know that field will work for you. If you onboard, if you do decide to sign up, or if you already are here and you want to talk more about it, we can go into a little more depth into that. If you say, hey, there are no fields that I can use to trigger this information, you can build a standalone condition where you ask your drafter a question, give them a multiple choice answer list, and you can say, hey, if they choose option A, insert paragraph A. If they insert option B, insert paragraph B in your document, and so on. We're gonna say yes here because we have a field that we can use to trigger what contact information shows up. This first drop down is the card. Whew, my mind just went blank. So it's that certificate of service information card. What's the field? It's going to be that service method field. I want to insert the address whenever we're doing certified mail or hand delivery. So I'm going to say equals certified mail. Or you can create a compound condition. This is advanced stuff, y'all. Or if certificate of service method equals hand delivery. Create condition. Now I've got this condition here that has two options. It's two if statements and one apply button. Let's create the rest. So, or if, yes, it's gonna be a triggered condition, certificate of service method contains, remember those text to merge fields? We said e-file, Discord's electronic filing system, email, electronic mail. Both of those fields have the word electronic in common, so we're gonna say contains, electronic. You can also do electronic. You can also do a compound condition, but I'm all about saving time. And then finally we'll do new condition, yes, if certificate of service information, service method equals facsimile, create condition. So we're using that text to merge text to trigger. Now I'm going to pop over my document. I want address to appear when certified mail or hand delivery. So I'm selecting the text that I want to appear when this condition is met, and I'm hitting apply, and it pops in those condition tags, and we're basically building ourselves this little condition sandwich. And anything between the bread there, the if and in tag, that's what gets inserted when your condition is met. Email will do the same. Boom, boom. Fax will do the same. So I'm going to apologize in advance about that I'm not finishing the template completely, but I want to make sure we get to the other things too. So I'm going to hit apply there, and I'll show you what it looks like. Let's hit save template down here at the bottom. Save template. I'll click update. It's just going to update the template on the cloud for me. Give it a second to upload. Any questions while we're waiting?
I have a comment.
Yes.
For the importance of mapping fields, it does take a lot of time to set up, but this will, as he says, save you time later. For example, with the responsible attorney one he mentioned, not only this helps you because it syncs to Clio Manage, but if you have a use case, for example, an attorney has to suddenly be out, then you can click responsible attorney in Clio Manage and see all of that attorney's cases to reassign them elsewhere.
Absolutely. I love that. All right, so we saved. We're going back over to Clio Draft. I'm going to refresh my page to pull in that template. There it is, notice of appearance 23. I'll click add, draft new document. I'm going to call it a test. A meaningful name is helpful here. and I'll just choose this random matter that I have from Clio Manage. If I know I've updated the matter in Clio Manage and I haven't synced those updates, I can click Update Now, and it will facilitate that update. Click the next button, and it brings me to the Populate page. Can you guess what you do on the Populate page? Yeah, you populate the information. So you'll see there's a lot of stuff already populated here. We already know that Jack Donaghy is the defendant in this case because Jack Donaghy is a related contact to the matter, related as defendant. So that information goes exactly where you need it. Avery here, that's my client in this case. You can see there's not an attached contact, but the name is there because I added it before. But you can see Avery from my drop-down list as a related contact here. So she's right at the top, and I can just attach her anywhere I need her. Multiple times. Sorry, this is a bad example. I didn't use one that had a case number, so the case number is usually there. And then there's my service date, got a little date picker. We're gonna start with e-file as our delivery method, and we wanna see the opposing counsel's email appear. Let's click generate documents. I'll show you what it looks like. You'll see there's gonna be a lot of yellow highlighting throughout this document still. We leave the fields highlighted yellow so that you can quickly see, oh, that's a field, and make sure that the data showed up properly. This is the preview page. This is kind of where you're making sure that things look great. And of course they do. Look at that email right there. All you see is email. That's exactly what I wanted. But actually, we're gonna send this via mail. I'm gonna hit the back button, change this to certified mail, generate again. I'm hanging tight. All right, and now we've got the address shows up, so you can see how you can use conditions to automate that text throughout your document. Yep. The question is, what happens if you have multiple attorneys? And a lot of folks have this problem, even if you don't have multiple attorneys. If you have multiple children, if you have multiple, not spouses, if you have multiple other, I don't know why that came into my head. Then, yeah, you can automate that as well. So let's just say you have, you need because then a lot of people will do like both attorneys up here. You can do, actually, I will, so you can use conditions to automate this. I will show you if you stick around at the end, but I'm going to move on, but I will answer the question. So you can create a condition that says, hey, if opposing counsel 2 full name exists, then I want opposing counsel's 2 contact block inserted into the document. Oh, did you hear the question? Did I say that? Okay. If you have 3 opposing counsels, you can say if opposing counsel 3 full name exists, then insert opposing counsel 3 contact block. And you can also automate the grammar. So you can say, I serve this on opposing counsel 1 full name, comma, opposing counsel 2 full name, comma, because we're using Oxford commas, and opposing counsel 3 full name. If there's just 2, then you can set it up so that it says opposing counsel 1 full name and opposing counsel 2 full name. So using conditions, you can say, if that name exists, I know there's that other person here, and you can use that to automate what shows up in your document. Okay, thank you so much for that question. I really appreciate it. So that is how to build a template. Let's go on back to the slide deck. If you want to learn more about conditions, Joe over here, raise your hand, Joe. He's doing a session after lunch today, and he is talking about conditions. He's got a lot of really heavy information, but it's going to be so good. And like I said, you're not alone. If you decide you want to do this, you really like what he's talking about, we will help you through this process. You're not alone here. All right, let's move on to creating this optimized workflow. We've got a couple other things we want to talk about, and that is questionnaires. So you collected your basic intake. You moved the case over to Clio Manage. You're ready to generate some documents, but you have all the detailed information you need to collect now. Do you go back to Clio Draft or Grow? Do you send out another more detailed intake and then sync it back over to Manage and then sync it back over to Draft? Or do you sign up for our questionnaires pilot? And I will say not everyone gets into the pilot. It's really just for heavy testing. We want to make sure it's a really great product for everyone. But already, let me just tell you, I'm impressed. And I don't get impressed easily. So let's talk about the questionnaires feature, what you can do with it. So you're able to collect this more in-depth information from your client when it matters in your case. If you're using Grow for intaking, then you're using Clio Draft for all the stuff that happens after your hire. You can use, it's a more logic-based interface. You can say, is there a third child? Yes. As here, third child information block. Is there a fifth child? Yes. Y'all need some more time on in your lives. Smart build magic is the biggest thing that I love about questionnaires is you can take a document or a document set or a set of court forms or one individual document and you can say, hey, I need to collect information to generate this set of documents. And then when you go through the process of creating your questionnaire, it's already designed to automatically anticipate what your questions need to be. So all you're doing is editing the auto-generated questionnaire rather than starting from scratch, which, game changer. And you can review all the details, everything that your client puts into those questions, or all the answers, you can review them before you accept them and they go into the matter. So you can spell things correctly and you sort of have that sort of oversight into what actually gets applied to the matter. And this is just a little preview here, but it's not a GIF or anything. So I just wanted to show you kind of what it looks like. So let's prepare and send a questionnaire. Joe, we have 3.5 minutes, so I'm going to need you to do this so fast. All right, back to the computer. All right, so I have a document that it's just a basic family law complaint, and I mean basic because I don't have a lot of time. So I'm going to go to questionnaires here, and I'm going to create a questionnaire from template. Let's say family law complaint. Hit continue. It says, okay, what document or document sets or court forms do you want to generate? Well, I want to generate my family law complaint. You can add as many things, probably up to 20 things here. But I'm just going to do the one. Build questionnaire. Moment of truth. Yes. So it has built this questionnaire. You can go into settings. You can add your logo to all of these things too. But we're not going to cover that because it's not as important for me. So you can see, okay, court county. Do I want my client answering what's the court county? Probably not. I already know that. So I'm going to delete that. But it's there so that you don't have to do that work. It's easy to delete something than it is to create something from scratch. Do I want my client saying who the responsible attorney is? Probably not. I'm going to delete that too. They don't know the case number, so I'm going to delete that. I do want to collect all that plaintiff information, and if you're doing the petition, you're representing the plaintiff, so the county field for plaintiff is already mapped. But look what happens. I can edit this field. I can add a hint if I want to have a hint, but you can add additional mapping. So where the plaintiff lives is likely going to be the county, depending on your situation, most situations. You can attach the county field to that same question so that the one answer populates both fields. Save. Some of this you may already have in Clio Draft, but I just wanted to show you the example. Defendant information here, child 1, child 2, child 3, but I don't want child 1, child 2, child 3 to show up every single time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a little new section here and I'm going to call it R or children. Oh, I got 1 minute. Oh, look at this. Joe, you're not even going to get a chance. Sorry, just chill. I wanted to show you what it looked like when it's finished. Okay, so I have, where did it go? Are there children? And I'm just going to, you can quickly drag these up where you want them above child 1. I'll add a question here that's not going to be attached to any field. It's going to be a single select. Are there children? Option 1 is going to be yes. Option 2 is going to be no. I want it to be required. Save. So now I've got this child 1 card, but I also have this question here, so I can edit that child 1 card and I can say, edit, display logic. It's going to help you automate this. So you can say, hey, if, remember those if statements? Are there children field equals yes, then we want this to show up. Boom, there it is. So now when I go through and do this questionnaire, it's going to ask, are there children? If you choose yes, you're going to get child. And then you would say, at the end of child, is there a second child? Is there a third child? And use that to automate the rest of your template. So really easy to build and send these. I'm going to go ahead and there's no time to share. I got 4 seconds. All right. Listen, there's more to cover, but we covered so much information today. I will just shout out to our e-file team. We have this new built-in e-file tool that allows you to send things for electronic filing right from your Matter dashboard, starting in Texas, moving into Georgia very soon, and then the next states are Illinois and California. When that comes around, game changer. Really cool, really easy to attach those filing fees to your Matter. Thank you all so much. I really appreciate your time. Don't forget to sign up for the pilot if you're interested in questionnaires, and it was my pleasure.